You think your family treats you unfairly? Wait until you hear what my parents did to me on Christmas morning. They gave my sister a $60,000 BMW while I got a $2 piggy bank. But here's the twist that'll blow your mind. When I stole that car and drove into a snowstorm, my dad threatened to call the police. Little did he know, he couldn't. Because that BMW? It was legally mine all along. And the reason why will make you question everything you think you know about family loyalty. But before I tell you how this insane story unfolds, do me a massive favor and smash that subscribe button. Because what happens next is absolutely wild, and you're going to want to see how this ends. My name is Jake, and for 34 years, I lived as the invisible son, while my sister Chelsea got the spotlight, the praise, and apparently $60,000 cars. I was the afterthought. The responsible one. The one who didn't need attention because I always figured things out, on my own. But that Christmas morning changed everything. And by the end of this story, you'll see exactly how one moment of courage can completely transform your entire life. Picture this. It's December 25th, and I'm walking into my childhood home, with my arms full of expensive, thoughtful gifts for everyone. I'd just landed the biggest promotion of my career, senior structural engineer at one of the most prestigious firms in Portland. I was making more money than I'd ever dreamed of, and for the first time in my life, I thought maybe, just maybe, my parents would finally see me as more than just the reliable son who never caused problems. The living room was decorated like something out of a magazine. My mom had gone all out with the garland, the lights, the perfectly arranged presents under a massive tree. But there was one present that dominated everything else. A huge shape covered by a red sheet in the driveway, visible through the front window. My heart started racing because I knew what was under there, and I actually let myself believe it might be for me. Chelsea bounced down the stairs in her designer pajamas, the ones that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget, and immediately started tearing into her gifts. Designer handbags, expensive jewelry, the latest tech gadgets. Each present was met with squeals of delight and my parents' beaming smiles. They filmed everything, taking photos, celebrating every single unwrapping like it was an Academy Award ceremony. Then came the big moment. My dad stood up with this enormous grin and said, "Chelsea, sweetheart, we have one more surprise for you outside." They all paraded out to the driveway, and when he pulled off that red sheet, there it was. A pristine, sparkling white BMW with a giant red bow on the hood. Chelsea actually screamed. Not the good kind of scream you hear at concerts, but the ear-piercing shriek of someone who's just won the lottery. "Daddy, I can't believe it. It's perfect. I love it so much." She was jumping up and down, hugging my parents, taking selfies with the car before she'd even gotten inside. The neighbors were coming out of their houses to see what the commotion was about. My dad was chest-puffed out proud. My mom was crying happy tears, and I was standing there holding my coffee mug, watching this whole performance unfold. But wait, it gets worse. Because then it was my turn. My dad reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. Not small like jewelry small like afterthought small. The wrapping job looked like it had been done by someone wearing mittens in the dark. He handed it to me with this casual, "Oh, and this is for you, son." I opened it, and I'm not kidding when I tell you what was inside. A plastic piggy bank, the kind you'd find in the checkout line at a dollar store. Pink, with a smiling pig face, and a coin slot on top. And here's the part that still makes my blood boil. The price tag was still on it. $1.99 from CVS Pharmacy. "It's the start of your future home fund," my dad said, without even a hint of irony in his voice. "We know you're responsible with money, so this will help you save up for your own place. Let me paint you the full picture here. My sister, who had never held a real job for longer than 3 months, who still lived at home at 28, who had crashed 2 previous cars and maxed out multiple credit cards that my parents paid off. She gets a $60,000 luxury vehicle. Me, the son who had worked since I was 16, put himself through college with minimal help, landed a 6-figure job, and had never asked them for a single dollar as an adult. I get a $2 piggy bank. The room went quiet. Even Chelsea stopped taking selfies for a moment. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, waiting for my reaction, waiting to see if responsible, reliable Jake would just smile and say, "Thank you," like he always did. Waiting to see if I'd swallow this humiliation the way I'd swallowed every other slight, every other moment of being overlooked, every other time I'd been treated like the consolation prize child. But something inside me snapped. Not like a twig. Breaking. Like a dam bursting. 34 years of being second best, of watching my achievements get overshadowed by Chelsea's mediocrity, of being told I was independent when what they really meant was ignored. It all came rushing out. At once, I stood up and I could feel my hands shaking. Not from nervousness, but from pure, concentrated rage. I walked to the front door where the car keys were hanging on a little hook. You know, one of those cute key holders that says, "Home Sweet Home" in cursive lettering. I grabbed the BMW keys. "Jake, what are you doing?" my mom asked, her voice getting that sharp edge it always got when someone wasn't following the family script. I didn't answer. I walked outside, clicked the key fob, and heard the satisfying beep of the car unlocking. Chelsea was still standing next to it, her phone out, probably posting to Instagram about her amazing parents and her incredible Christmas surprise. "Hey, those are my keys," she said, but she wasn't really worried yet. This was still just weird behavior from her weird brother, not a real threat to her perfect day. I got in the car. The leather seats were buttery soft, still had that new car smell that luxury dealerships pump in to make everything feel more expensive. The dashboard lit up like a spaceship, all blue lights and digital displays. I'd never driven anything this nice in my entire life. "Jake, get out of the car right now." My dad's voice was booming across the driveway. "This isn't funny anymore." But here's the thing. I wasn't trying to be funny. I was trying to be free. I started the engine and it purred to life like a contented cat. Chelsea was banging on the passenger window now, her face red and furious. "You're ruining my Christmas! Get out of my car!" My parents were both yelling. My mom was crying. The neighbors were definitely getting a show. And me. I put the car in reverse, backed out of the driveway, and drove away. Just like that. 34 years of being the good son, and I threw it all away for one moment of pure rebellion. If you think that's crazy, just wait, because this story is about to take a turn that no one, including me, saw coming. But first, I need you to do something for me. If you're enjoying this story, if you can relate to feeling overlooked or undervalued by the people who are supposed to love you most, hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm, and it lets me know you want to hear more stories like this one. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for what happens next. The first hour of driving was pure adrenaline. I had no plan, no destination, just a desperate need to get as far away from that house as possible. Snow was starting to fall. Not the gentle, picturesque kind you see in Christmas movies, but the heavy, aggressive kind that turns highways into death traps. Perfect weather for making terrible life decisions. I drove south on I-5, the car handling beautifully despite the increasingly dangerous conditions. Every mile that passed between me and my family felt like shedding a layer of skin I'd been wearing for decades. The radio was playing Christmas music, and for the first time all day, I was actually enjoying the holiday. But as the adrenaline started to wear off and reality crept in, panic set in right behind it. What had I done? I'd stolen a car. Not borrowed, not taken for a joyride. Stolen. This was grand theft auto. This was a felony. This was the kind of thing that ruins careers, destroys futures, lands you in prison with people who've done way worse things than take their sister's Christmas present. My phone started buzzing around the 2-hour mark. Text after text, call after call. My mom crying, Chelsea screaming, my dad using language I hadn't heard since his construction days. I ignored them all, but the messages kept coming through on my car's display system, because of course this fancy BMW had full phone integration. Jake, please come home. We can talk about this. Mom, you stole my car. You psycho. Chelsea, this is not who you are. Come home now. Dad, but it was the voicemail that came through at the 3-hour mark that changed everything. I was stopped at a gas station, filling up the tank and seriously considering just abandoning the car there and catching a Greyhound bus to anywhere else when my phone rang. I didn't answer, but the voicemail notification popped up immediately. I almost didn't listen to it. I almost deleted it and kept driving. But something made me hit play, and my dad's voice filled the car through the premium sound system. Jake. His voice was different than I'd ever heard it. Cold. Final. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this childish tantrum ends now. You have exactly 1 hour to return that car to this house. If you don't, I swear to God, I will call the police and report it stolen. I will press charges. I will testify against you in court. Do not test me on this. You think you're making some kind of point, but all you're doing is destroying your life over a Christmas present. Grow up and come home. You have 1 hour. The blood drained from my face. My hands started shaking again, but this time it was pure terror. He was serious. My own father was going to send me to prison over this. My career would be over. My reputation would be destroyed. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, gone in one impulsive moment. I sat in that gas station parking lot for 20 minutes, watching the snow pile up on the windshield, trying to figure out how to salvage this disaster. Maybe I could. Drive back, apologize, grovel, promise to pay for the car somehow. Maybe I could claim temporary insanity brought on by Christmas stress. Maybe I could wait. The registration, the insurance papers. If I was going to get arrested for this, I should probably know exactly what I was being charged with. I opened the glove compartment to get the paperwork, preparing to see Chelsea's name on everything, preparing to have concrete proof of my guilt, but that's not what I found. The registration was there all right, clean, official, state-issued vehicle registration for one brand new BMW. But the name on it wasn't Chelsea Marie Thompson. It wasn't Robert Thompson, my father. It wasn't even Margaret Thompson, my mother. It was Jacob William Thompson. My name. My full legal name. I stared at that document for a full minute, convinced I was hallucinating, convinced the stress had finally made me snap completely. But no matter how many times I blinked, how many times I held it up to the light, how many times I read every single word, the truth remained the same. This car was mine. Legally, officially, completely mine. But how? Why? When? My parents had never bought me anything this expensive in my entire life. They'd made me get a job at 16 to pay for my own car insurance. They'd refused to co-sign for my college loans because they wanted me to be independent. There was no universe in which they would buy me a $60,000 car and not tell me about it. Unless they hadn't bought it at all. And that's when it hit me. That's when the pieces started falling into place like the world's most twisted jigsaw puzzle. My grandmother, my dad's mom, who had passed away 2 years earlier after a long battle, with cancer. Grandma Rose, who had always been my biggest supporter, my loudest cheerleader, the one person in the family who saw me for who I really was, instead of who I wasn't. I could hear her voice as clearly as if she was sitting in the passenger seat. When you get that big promotion, Jakey, the one you've been working toward, you call me. I've got something special planned for you. She'd said it during one of our last conversations when she was in hospice care and we both knew our time was limited. She'd died 6 months before my promotion came through. I'd been so focused on work, on proving myself, on climbing that corporate ladder, that I'd pushed the grief aside and just kept moving forward. But now I could see exactly what had happened. Grandma Rose had bought this car. She'd put it in my name, probably had it delivered to my parents' house with instructions to give it to me when I got the promotion she knew was coming. And my parents? My parents had decided to give my gift to Chelsea instead. This wasn't theft. This was me claiming what was already mine. What had been mine all along. Are you kidding me right now? If you're as shocked as I was in that moment, you need to smash that like button because this story is about to get even more unbelievable. My entire family had lied to me. They'd stolen from me. They'd let me believe I was the ungrateful son, taking something that didn't belong to me, when the truth was the exact opposite. The rage I felt in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't the hot, impulsive anger from Christmas morning. This was cold, calculating, absolutely crystal clear fury. They had taken something my dying grandmother had left for me and given it to my sister, like it was their decision to make. They had let me walk away thinking I was a criminal, when they were the ones who had committed the real crime. I called my dad back. He answered on the first ring. "Jake, thank God, where are you?" "Just tell me where you are, and I'll come get you. We can figure this all out." "I'm looking at the car registration right now, Dad." Silence. Long, telling silence. "The car registration. That has my name on it. Jacob William Thompson. Not Chelsea, not you. Me." More silence. "This was Grandma's gift to me, wasn't it? She bought it for when I got my promotion, and you decided to give it to Chelsea instead. You let me think I was stealing when this car has been legally mine since before she died." "Jake, listen to me." "No, you listen to me. You threatened to call the police on me for taking my own property. You were going to let me go to jail to cover up what you did. Your own son. It's complicated, son. Your grandmother, she didn't understand." "She didn't understand what? That Chelsea's a 28-year-old failure who's never earned anything in her life? Or that I'm the son who actually deserved recognition for once? Don't talk about your sister like that. I'll talk about her however I want. This is my car, bought with my grandmother's money, put in my name, meant for my achievement. And you gave it away like it was yours to give." I hung up on him. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my father, and it felt incredible. But now I had a decision to make. I could drive this car back to Portland, walk into that house, and unleash 34 years of suppressed resentment on my family. I could scream and yell and demand apologies and probably get them because I was absolutely, unquestionably in the right. Or I could do something else, something that had never occurred to me before that moment. I could just keep driving. I could take this gift my grandmother had left me and use it exactly the way she'd intended, as the foundation for my new life. The life where I wasn't the overlooked son, the responsible one, the backup plan child. The life where I was just me, so that's exactly what I did. I Googled best cities for structural engineers right there in the gas station parking lot. San Francisco came up first, and I remembered my college roommate Monica lived there now. We'd stayed in touch, mostly through social media, but she'd always been one of those friends who felt like a sister, the kind of sister who actually saw your worth. I called her. "Jake? Oh my God, it's so good to hear from you. How are you? How was Christmas? Monica, I need to ask you something crazy, and I need you to not ask questions until I finish explaining." "Okay." Her voice got concerned, but she didn't push. "I'm in my car right now driving away from Portland, and I'm not going back. I need a place to stay for a few days while I figure out my next move. I know this is insane. I know it's sudden. But, yes." "Yes, what?" "Yes, you can stay here. My guest room is yours for as long as you need it." "Jake, I don't know what happened, but you sound different. You sound free. And that's exactly what I was. For the first time in my adult life, I was making a decision based purely on what I wanted, not what was expected of me, not what was responsible, not what would keep the peace in the family, just what I wanted. I drove through the night, through snow and rain, and finally into the clear, cold morning of a California dawn. When I saw the San Francisco skyline rising up ahead of me, I actually started crying. Not sad tears, relief tears, the kind of tears you cry when you realize you've been holding your breath for decades and you can finally exhale. But before I tell you about building my new life, I need you to help me out with something. This story is getting long, and YouTube's algorithm likes videos that keep people engaged all the way through. So if you're still with me, if you want to know how this all played out, drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in my situation. Would you have gone back to confront your family? Or would you have done what I did and just started over? I read every single comment, and I love hearing your perspectives on these stories. Monica lived in a beautiful Victorian house in the Mission District, one of those San Francisco neighborhoods where every house looks like a work of art, and parking spaces cost more than some people's rent. She was waiting for me on her front steps when I pulled up, and the look on her face when she saw the BMW was priceless. "Okay, I definitely need the full story now," she said, helping me carry my hastily packed bags inside, and I told her everything. The Christmas morning humiliation, the piggy bank, the car theft that turned out not to be theft at all, the voicemail threat, the discovery about my grandmother, all of it. Monica listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long time. "Jake," she finally said, "I've known you since we were 18 years old, and in all that time, I've never seen you do anything just for yourself. Not once. You've always been the peacekeeper, the responsible one, the son who never caused problems. And you know what? It made you miserable." She was right. I'd been miserable for years, but I'd been so good at being miserable that everyone around me had just accepted it as my natural state. The reliable son who never needed anything, who never asked for help, who never rocked the boat. "So what now?" I asked her. "Now you figure out who you are when you're not trying to earn their approval." The first thing I did was call my company's HR department. I explained that I needed to request a transfer to their San Francisco office for personal reasons, and asked how quickly something like that could be processed. The HR representative put me on hold for exactly 12 minutes. I timed it, and came back with news that changed my life. "Mr. Thompson, I've spoken with the San Francisco office manager, and they've actually been looking for someone with your exact qualifications for the past 3 months. They can offer you the same salary plus a cost of living adjustment for the Bay Area. When would you be able to start?" "Monday," I said, without hesitation. "Monday it is. We'll overnight your paperwork to the San Francisco office, and they'll have everything ready for you." Just like that, I had a new job in a new city. No begging, no lengthy application process, no uncertain waiting period. Just competence being recognized and rewarded the way it should be. Next, I blocked my family's phone numbers. All of them. Mom, Dad, Chelsea, even my aunts and uncles who I knew would be recruited to guilt me into coming home. I wasn't ready to talk to any of them, and I wasn't going to be manipulated into feeling guilty for taking control of my own life. Then I found a small apartment in the Castro district, nothing fancy but clean and bright, and completely mine. I signed the lease with first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit paid in cash from my savings account. The savings account I'd built because I was the responsible one who never got expensive gifts. And for the first time in my adult life, I started therapy. Dr. Sarah Chen was this tiny, fierce woman who specialized in family trauma and boundary setting. I told her I just needed help adjusting to my new city, but she saw right through that excuse. "Jake," she said during our third session, You didn't move to San Francisco because you wanted a change of scenery. You moved here because you were suffocating, and you finally found a way to breathe. The question is, what are you going to do with all this oxygen? She helped me understand that what my family had done wasn't just about the car. It was about a lifetime of conditioning me to believe that my needs didn't matter, that my achievements were expected rather than celebrated, that my role in the family was to be the stable one while everyone else got to be the special one. You've been trained to be invisible, she told me. The question is, who are you when people can actually see you? I was about to find out. My new job was incredible. I was working on projects that actually challenged me, with colleagues who respected my expertise and supervisors who noticed my contributions. Within 3 months, I'd been assigned to lead a major infrastructure project, and within 6 months, I'd gotten another promotion. Not because I was the reliable backup plan, but because I was genuinely good at what I did. I started making friends. Real friends, not just work acquaintances or family connections. People who chose to spend time with me because they enjoyed my company, not because they were obligated to tolerate me at family gatherings. I learned how to cook. I'd lived on takeout and frozen dinners for most of my adult life because I was always too busy being responsible for everything else to take care of myself properly. But now I had time and energy to invest in my own well-being. I started working out regularly, not because I was trying to impress anyone or fix some perceived flaw, but because it felt good to be strong. I even started dating. Turns out, when you're not constantly stressed about family drama and focused on earning approval from people who will never give it, you become a lot more attractive to potential partners. For 6 months, I built this new life piece by piece. Every day felt like construction work, but the good kind. The kind where you're building something beautiful and stable and entirely your own. But then, the invitation arrived. My cousin David was getting married. David, who had always been more like a brother to me than a cousin, who had texted me a few times since my disappearance, but respected my need for space. The wedding was in Portland, at the same country club where my parents had held their anniversary parties, where Chelsea had celebrated her college graduation, where I'd watched my family celebrate everything that mattered to them while I stood in the background. "You don't have to go," Monica said when I showed her the invitation. "You don't owe them anything." But Dr. Chen had a different perspective. The question isn't whether you owe them anything. The question is whether you want to go. Not as the old Jake who was afraid of conflict, but as the new Jake who knows his own worth. Do you want to go? And the surprising answer was yes. I did want to go. Not to make peace or to forgive them or to go back to the way things were, but to show them, and myself, exactly who I'd become in their absence. So if you want to know, what happened when the prodigal son returned? Not broken and begging for forgiveness, but successful and independent and completely unbothered by their approval. You need to stay tuned, because this confrontation was years in the making and it did not disappoint. But first, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because I post stories like this every week, and you don't want to miss what happens next. I flew into Portland on a Friday afternoon in June. The wedding was Saturday evening, but I'd booked myself into a nice hotel downtown, not because I couldn't afford somewhere fancier, but because I wanted to stay somewhere that was completely neutral territory, somewhere they couldn't just show up and demand explanations. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night, and that's where I planned to make my reappearance. Not at the actual wedding where I'd be disrupting David's big day, but at the rehearsal where my presence would cause ripples without ruining anyone's actual ceremony. I spent an hour getting ready. Haircut from the best barber in San Francisco, a perfectly tailored suit that cost more than my father used to make in a week back when he was working construction. Italian leather shoes, Swiss watch. Not because I was trying to show off, but because I wanted to walk into that room looking like exactly what I'd become. Successful, independent, and completely comfortable in my own skin. When I walked into the private dining room at the country club, the reaction was immediate and electric. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. People actually turned in their chairs to stare. My Aunt Linda literally dropped her fork. I wasn't the same person who had driven away in that BMW 6 months earlier. That Jake had been angry, hurt, desperate to prove a point. This Jake was calm, confident, and completely at peace with his decisions. David spotted me first and broke into a huge grin. He crossed the room and pulled me into a bear hug that lifted me off the ground. "Jake, holy shit, man, you look incredible. I wasn't sure you'd come." "Wouldn't miss it," I said, and I meant it. "Congratulations, cousin. I'm really happy for you. Come on, let me introduce you to Amy. She's been dying to meet the mysterious Thompson who disappeared into the night." But before we could make it to his fiancée, my father appeared in front of us. 6 months of unemployment and stress had aged him visibly. His hair was grayer, his face more lined, his shoulders curved in a way that suggested the weight of carrying too much for too long. "Jake." His voice was uncertain, like he wasn't sure what reaction he was going to get. "Dad?" I kept my voice neutral, polite but not warm. You look good, son. Really good." "Thanks." "I am good." An awkward pause. Everyone around us was pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. "We should talk," he said. "We should," I agreed. "But not tonight. Tonight is about David." That seemed to surprise him. The old Jake would have caused a scene, would have aired grievances publicly, would have made everything about his own hurt feelings. But the new Jake understood timing and appropriate venues. My mom appeared next, tears already starting in her eyes. "Oh, Jake, we've been so worried." "No," I said gently but firmly. "You haven't been worried. You've been inconvenienced. There's a difference." The tears came harder then, but I didn't rush to comfort her the way I would have before. I didn't apologize for making an accurate observation just because it hurt her feelings. Then Chelsea walked over, and the change in her was dramatic. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by something from Target or Old Navy. Her hair, usually styled to perfection, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked diminished, not just physically, but energetically. "Hi, Jake," she said, quietly. "You look really good." "Thank you. How are you?" She paused, seeming to genuinely consider the question. "I'm learning how to take care of myself. It's harder than I expected." This was the closest thing to self-awareness I'd ever heard from my sister, and it caught me off guard. But I recovered quickly. "That does sound hard," I said. "I hope you figure it out." Notice what I didn't say. I didn't offer to help. I didn't suggest ways she could improve her situation. I didn't take responsibility for fixing her problems or making her feel better about her choices. I just offered basic human compassion and moved on. The evening progressed with me having normal conversations with cousins and family friends, sharing stories about San Francisco, talking about my work, acting like a completely functional adult at a social gathering, which, it turned out, I was, but it was my conversation with my Aunt Carol that provided the most revealing information about what had happened after I left. "You know," she said, pulling me aside during cocktail hour, "your parents have been struggling since you disappeared." Disappeared is an interesting word choice. I moved to San Francisco and changed my phone number. "I wasn't kidnapped," she laughed. "Fair enough. Since you moved away, then. Your father lost his job about 2 months after Christmas. This was news. To me. What happened? Budget cuts, officially. But between you and me, I think he'd been having performance problems for a while. He was distracted, angry all the time, couldn't focus on work. The car situation with Chelsea didn't help." "What? Car situation?" "Oh, you didn't hear? The BMW got repossessed in March. Chelsea couldn't afford the insurance payments, couldn't afford the maintenance, couldn't even afford the gas. Your parents had been making the payments, but when your dad lost his job, she shrugged. They're selling the house, downsizing to a condo. Your mom got a part-time job at Macy's. The irony was staggering. They'd given Chelsea a car she couldn't afford to keep, while driving away the son who could have actually maintained it properly. They'd prioritized the child who needed financial support over the child who was financially independent. And it had cost them everything. "How's Chelsea handling all this?" I asked. "Well, she had to get a real job for the first time in her life. She's working at a coffee shop downtown and taking night classes to finish her degree. Your parents aren't in a position to support her anymore, so she's finally learning what the rest of us figured out in our 20s. Part of me felt sorry for them, but a bigger part of me felt vindicated. Not because I wanted them to suffer, but because their struggles proved what I'd always suspected. Their system was unsustainable. You can't build a family structure where one person does all the work and gets none of the recognition, while another person gets all the recognition and does none of the work. Eventually, reality comes calling. The next evening at the wedding reception, my father cornered me during a quiet moment when most people were on the dance floor. "We need to talk, Jake. Really talk." "Okay," I said. "I'm listening. I know we made mistakes. With the car, with Christmas, with a lot of things over the years. But you're our son. This family isn't complete without you." "Dad, I want you to really think about what you just said. You're telling me the family isn't complete without me, but for 34 years, you acted like it was perfectly complete without my contributions, without acknowledging my achievements, without celebrating my successes. That's not true." "It is true. When I graduated valedictorian from high school, you missed the ceremony for Chelsea's soccer game. When I got my engineering degree, you took the whole family to Disney World to celebrate Chelsea finishing community college. When I bought my first house, you didn't even come see it. But when Chelsea dropped out of her third college attempt, you threw her a finding herself party." He was quiet, and I could see him trying to formulate a defense, but I wasn't finished. "The car wasn't about Christmas morning, Dad. The car was about 34 years of being invisible. And the worst part wasn't that you gave it to Chelsea. The worst part was that you threatened to have me arrested for taking what was legally mine, rather than admit what you'd done. We thought we were doing the right thing." "No, you thought. You were doing the convenient thing. Chelsea needed a car. You had access to a car that belonged to someone else, so you gave it to her. You didn't think about what that would mean to me, because you never think about what anything means to me. What do you want from us, Jake? What do we need to do to fix this?" And that was the moment I realized something profound. I didn't want anything from them. For my entire life, I'd been waiting for them to see me, to value me, to treat me the way they treated Chelsea. But sitting there in that reception hall, successful and happy and surrounded by people who actually appreciated me, I realized I didn't need their recognition anymore. "I don't want you to fix anything, Dad. I want you to understand that I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt anymore. I'm just done trying to earn something that you're not capable of giving. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You had 34 years to figure out how to appreciate your son. I spent 6 months figuring out how to live without your approval. Guess which one of us adapted better?" The conversation ended there because Chelsea walked over, and what she said next surprised everyone, including me. "Jake, I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For taking the car. I knew it was meant for you. Grandma Rose called me before she died and told me about it. She wanted to make sure I understood that it was your reward for the promotion, your recognition for everything you'd accomplished. And I took it anyway, because I wanted it, and because I knew Mom and Dad would let me." The entire reception could have been happening in another universe for all I cared. This was the first time anyone in my family had taken actual responsibility for their actions. "I also need to tell you something else," she continued. Living without mom and dad's safety net for the past few months has been the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also been the most important. I never understood how much work it takes to be an adult because someone was always there to catch me when I fell. You never had that safety net, and instead of being jealous of me for having it, you should have been proud of yourself for not needing it. I stared at her, genuinely shocked. This was not the Chelsea I'd grown up with. This was someone who had apparently learned what accountability looked like. I don't know if we can ever be real siblings, she continued, but I want you to know that I finally understand what Grandma Rose saw in you, and I understand why she wanted you to have something special, something that recognized how hard you've worked for everything you've achieved. It was probably the most mature thing I'd ever heard my sister say, and for the first time in our entire relationship, I felt something that might have been respect for her. Thank you for saying that, Chelsea. That means more than you know. Are you happy? In San Francisco? I am. Really, genuinely happy. For the first time in my adult life. She nodded, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. Good. You deserve to be happy. The rest of the evening passed quietly. I danced with my cousins, caught up with family friends, and gave a toast to David and Amy about the importance of building a life with someone who sees your worth and celebrates your successes. It wasn't subtle, but it wasn't meant to be. As the reception wound down, my mother pulled me aside one last time. "Will you stay in touch?" she asked. "Will you call sometimes?" "Maybe," I said honestly. "But it will be on my terms, when I want to, not because you guilt me into it." "That's fair," she said, which surprised me. "Jake, I know we can't undo the past 34 years, but I hope someday you might give us a chance to do better in the future." "We'll see, Mom. We'll see." I flew back to San Francisco the next morning, and as the plane lifted off from Portland International Airport, I felt lighter than I had in years. Not because I'd forgiven my family or because we'd had some magical reconciliation, but because I'd finally closed the loop on that chapter of my life. I'd gone back as the person I'd become, not the person I'd been. I'd faced them as an equal, not as a child desperate for approval. And I'd walked away knowing that my happiness didn't depend on their recognition. But the story doesn't end there, because 6 months later, something happened that none of us expected. My father got sober. Not just stopped drinking, actually got sober. AA meetings, sponsor, the whole program. And one of the steps in recovery, apparently, is making amends to the people you've harmed. He called me in December, almost, exactly 1 year after the BMW Christmas disaster. "Jake, I'm calling to apologize. Not to ask for forgiveness, not to try to rebuild our relationship, just to apologize." I listened as he took responsibility for years of emotional neglect, for prioritizing Chelsea's immediate needs over my long-term's development, for failing to recognize my achievements while celebrating her mediocrity, for threatening to have me arrested rather than admitting their mistake with the car. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said. "I don't expect you to come home or to go back to the way things were. I just need you to know that I understand now what I did to you, and I'm sorry. It was everything I'd wanted to hear for 34 years. And you know what? It felt good to hear it, but it didn't change anything fundamental about my life or my happiness. I was already whole. I'd already built a life that didn't require his approval or his apologies. Thank you for calling, Dad. I appreciate the apology." "How are you doing, son? Are you still happy in San Francisco?" "I am. I got another promotion last month. I'm leading the team that's designing the new earthquake retrofitting for the Golden Gate Bridge." "That's incredible, Jake. I'm proud of you." "Thanks, Dad. That's nice to hear." And it was nice to hear. But it was also 20 years too late to matter the way it would have once mattered. We talk occasionally now, my parents and Chelsea and me. Not regularly, not with the forced closeness that some families insist on, but like adults who share a history, and wish each other well from a distance. My mom sends me cards on holidays. Chelsea texts me pictures of her college graduation. She finished her degree at 29, working 2 jobs to pay for it herself. My dad shares updates about his recovery and his new job at a nonprofit that helps other people rebuild their lives after addiction. They're all becoming better people, and I'm happy for them. But their growth doesn't erase the decades of damage, and it doesn't obligate me to pretend that damage didn't happen. Here's what I've learned in the 2 years since I drove away in that BMW. You can love your family and still refuse to accept unacceptable treatment. You can wish people well without sacrificing your own well-being for their comfort. You can forgive without forgetting, and you can move forward without looking back. Most importantly, you can build a life so fulfilling that you don't need anyone else's validation to know your own worth. That plastic piggy bank still sits on my bookshelf in my San Francisco apartment, not as a reminder of humiliation, but as a symbol of transformation. It reminds me that sometimes the worst gifts can lead to the best decisions. The BMW? I still drive it. It's paid off now, obviously, and I've put 40,000 miles on it. Exploring California, driving up the coast, taking weekend trips to places I'd never seen. Every mile is a reminder of the woman who saw my potential when my own parents couldn't, and every mile is a celebration of the life I built with her final gift. I've been promoted twice more since that first year. I'm now a senior partner at my firm, leading projects across the West Coast, making more money than I ever imagined possible. I bought a house in the hills with a view of the bay. I'm in a relationship with an amazing woman who thinks my dedication and work ethic are attractive, rather than boring. I have friends who celebrate my successes and support me through challenges. I built the life my grandmother always believed I could build. And I did it without sacrificing my integrity, without compromising my values, and without waiting for permission from people who were never going to give it. If you're watching this video because you relate to feeling undervalued by your family, because you're tired of being the responsible one who never gets recognition, because you're considering making a major change in your life, but you're scared of the consequences, let me tell you something. You are worth more than their opinion of you. Your achievements matter whether they acknowledge them or not. Your happiness is more important than their comfort. You don't have to steal a car and drive into a snowstorm to change your life. But you do have to decide that you're worth fighting for. You have to choose yourself, even when the people who are supposed to choose you don't. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's building a life so good that you don't need revenge at all. Thank you for watching my story. If it resonated with you, if it gave you courage to make changes in your own life, if it reminded you of your own worth, please hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories about breaking free from toxic patterns and building the life you deserve. And remember, sometimes the people who claim to know you best are actually the ones who see you least clearly. Don't let their blindness convince you that you're invisible. You're not invisible. You're just in the wrong room. Until next time, keep building your own happiness. It's the only validation you'll ever really need.